right, everyone. Yeah, I decided I'd get live here. So we run into a pretty important level on the chart after over a week of ranging here. All right, give people a few minutes to get in here. Hope you're all doing well. Good morning, good morning. We have the new daily session started about 10 minutes ago. And I'll give a moment to give some context, but like I said, just give people a couple minutes to get in here. Price ranging here with a little bit of a downtrend forming. We'll talk about what this level represents in my view and its potential significance. I think we can do that. All right, so here we have essentially the point of control of the range. We have the non-log GP. And if we go to the weekly chart, we have a weekly high here and above some levels. Weekly high candles here, but a lot of intermediary highs as well because we ranged along here. But anyways, this is, I think, a pretty significant idea for either a fake out or continuation. Frankly, this doesn't look particularly bearish into the level. We have a slight reaction until some structure starts getting broken down and lost. Particularly, and we'll get into the lower time frames in a second, but particularly falling back into this range. Otherwise, it is just a breakout. Now, a lot can happen here between finding out if it's a breakout or a fake out. For example, just a local range. Like, you're not surprised to see in the bearish scenarios get rid of some of this. You're not surprised in the bearish scenarios to see some structure forming here, even if you're going to get a reversal. Maybe, you know, tag these highs one more time. Price spends a little bit of time rejecting here, ranging, some shorts build up, maybe some conditional longs for a breakout, and after that all builds up, you tag with that the highs one more time, and you see price roll over. You can also obviously see a breakout of here. So first we're going to talk about the scenarios where price does not break out of here. But one kind of major structurally relevant idea is this, right? We have our previous range highs. Price is breaking out of them. And this is just an important level in terms of the POC. You have the idea of sweeping that weekly candle high, the big GP. Always want to be aware of these big golden pockets. They tend to play. But anyways, is price, you know, if we say we reject here and we bounce here, well, we might be putting in that little local ranging scenario. We're coming into a weekend. It is not unreasonable to think that price could spend some time up here. And that also looks like an SR flip type idea. You have a little local low to tag here too. And if price starts breaking down into this, then we're back down into the range. And whether or not we're going to stay back and have a deeper rejection, we don't know. But until price is back up out of the range, we're back in the range. And I think that's relevant. And right now we're above the range. Now, something I would probably be apt to do, and may even do on this live stream. Wait, am I on? Oh, god damn it. I wasn't looking at chat. I just realized, I'm like, I think I'm on the wrong page. All right, well, hey, we're here. We're at the big point of control. We're at the big GP. And I have this level. I've talked about this level a lot, this idea of ranging here, impulsing, rejecting as a potential major high idea. The weekly high I'm referring to is right here. And I'm sure you guys can put together what I was talking about, but this can all develop into a range, break down. For the bear scenarios, we could just flip all of this. Of course, if you flip this, it doesn't mean price can't go back higher, just this is happening, right? If this happens, we're below the range. If this happens, we're back up out of the range. But anyways, I think this is a pretty important level on the chart for some of the bearish ideas. It's just a technical level, the big point of control there, big weekly high. I guess I'll show that on the chart just because I wasn't on the screen earlier what I'm referring to, but just this weekly high here. So this would be just coming up and sweeping the high into this non-log golden pocket. But yeah, I'll say that just structurally here with this impulse, like it doesn't look particularly bearish. You basically just have I think this only plays on log scale. You have this uptrend, an impulse, but you're not so surprised. You're not so surprised to have this looking really, really friggin' bullish, as you could say, and then just have it roll over, right? Like that would be the bear scenario, and probably, probably not surprised in the bear scenarios to see once this rejection happens and this starts happening, all of this can kind of go quickly. And if there's no bounce here, there's no structure, and then you just see this all ran through. And so that's the big idea for, I would say, frankly, for the bullish scenarios and the bearish scenarios on a higher time frame. Have rejections in this region as a reasonable idea. For the high time frame bullish ideas, well, then you're kind of probably just looking for a higher low here. Take, maybe even just run one or two of these lows, run into this region of the chart, into the GP, and you put in your, probably not straight up from there, but you put in your higher low and then back to all-time highs. But for those to play, you need to reject from here. There's certainly ideas where you just don't, and we carry higher. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But one thing that I'm probably quite interested in doing here is looking to play some of these local levels in the range scenarios tight. Like this would be kind of a nice little clean entry to kind of manage as a local range setup, and rather than having your only short being here, and you can probably TP a little bit on that and then maybe leave some running, de-risk it a little bit. Likewise, you can scalp into retests as well for longs. But there's sort of a nice little risk reward addition to scalping some shorts in these major levels. Because with the intention of just pulling some risk and letting some run as a swing position potentially. You could talk a little bit. Notice Doge this is the 1 hour chart, impulse, putting some highs, kind of had a bearish trend, took this low, and now pressing up into the GP, which is aligned with some highs. Pretty typical for if there's a bearish outcome here for Doge. Pretty typical continuation idea for more downside in bear scenarios. Been noting that the S&P mini here, we're playing right back at the GP, impulse into the GP, and a little initial reaction here. Again, this is, I would say, not atypical for the more bearish scenarios. Like you have a big breakdown, a big reaction, you have this trending GP, take this low, impulse back up into the GP, and then more downside. So I'll say that my bias is towards deeper corrections on Bitcoin from here, but I'm pretty willing to let that go if we start breaking out of here. I mean, again, spend some time ranging in here, maybe make a new high, a little fake out, little impulse there before a dump. Maybe that comes into New York today. That's all within reason of shorts here. But start seeing a little bit of continuation out of here, no weakness. Probably looking towards the 102K level. You have value area high of the range, the 786. You have a significant high there. I think that's the monthly high as well. Maybe it's a little higher. Yeah, it's right above the 786. We have a monthly candle there. And you just can't help but think that that's probably, if price is not rejecting here in this region, then it's probably working its way up towards this. And I think this opens up some of the shallower pullback ideas for bullish continuation. Like you basically maybe get some kind of retest down here, maybe make an all-time high, come back down to these lows, get some. I don't mind the idea really of coming back in those stronger continuation ideas, coming back down into, probably don't spend 2 weeks up here, but coming back down and wiping all this out, like this, take this. And so suddenly all of those all of these lows become significant levels for longs, I think, in these cases. Where it kind of makes sense, right? Where you're interested in shorts on a breakout and a retest, you're probably looking for longs on the same level. Because the bear scenarios might look like this, whereas the bullish scenarios might look like this. Flipping the POC. But we can talk about that when/if price gets there. Let me look at chat really quick. People saying wrong screen. Garrett saying, I think we can guess what he's talking about. True. We have not. Yeah. I mean, you can't help but think that in this context, you're not surprised to see a strong move like a really quick move to the downside, just because everything's holding, right? So in the bear scenarios, like, you're not surprised to see, instead of like something really rangy and choppy, that's pretty quick, but just some levels go. We did an amazing job of front running all this breakout for a week. Just spending an incredible amount of time up here on the 4-hour chart. I had this idea for long into this trending idea back into these range lows, but I didn't wake up for it. So anyways, could be kind of interesting. I think there's some chance, let's say, that we resolve this level today. Put in some higher lows. Even this is lower highs. And this is probably important. See what's happening here. A little bit of bearish divergence is forming. But again, all this plays into, this is our big SR level. I won't go back, but it's the previous range high. I'll mark that on the chart, just so we have it. For clarity. So here you kind of have the lower high that can play bearishly. I mean, this can play really bearishly. You also just have now the range building. You know, as far as not caring about lower time frames, set it and forget it. I mean, there's kind of two schools of thought here. Is trade the level. You're short at the POC, your invalidation's kind of up above the next relevant structure somewhere, where you're basically, if this level doesn't play, you're probably just getting run out there and you're looking to trade new ideas. The other is waiting for acceptance back into the range and just saying, hey, I'm trading this as a deviation from this high, the impulse, the liquidity grab, the rejection. Probably in those scenarios, depending on the timing, you're probably thinking a little bit about this uptrend that we're in. That's, again, it's on log scale. It's pretty much perfectly clean. We're not on log scale right now, but it would look like, you know, you're probably waiting for that to go as well. But I mean, it either does or doesn't. You wait or you don't. It's something like that. But I'm kind of interested in playing some local ideas here. Even to the point where I'm sort of interested to see, as we take these local highs, what happens. Someone's asking, why is my mic so low? I don't know. I didn't think it was, but I can, maybe this helps a little bit. Hello. But sometimes people complain about the volume, and then other people say, no, it's fine. Mic is low. All right, well, maybe this will help. Yeah, but everything I'm talking about now is just kind of like, whatever, 50-50 kind of scalping, low time frame ideas. Take some local highs maybe. I'm actually going to get rid of, just to clean up this chart a little bit. We know the PLC is right here. We know the GP is right here. I'm just going to get rid of those higher time frame levels. We know it's a region. We've kind of ran through it. This is the 15-minute chart. So you kind of have, you have a little bit of a range here locally. Potentially taking that range high, rotate to the lows of the range, maybe take out that, come back for the highs, or don't. Let's see how some of the aggressive positions play into the level. You have some slight bearish divergences potentially forming. This is locally pretty grindy uptrending action. Probably want to see some pretty big pop. That's a pretty big pop on Bybit. $42 million delta there. So you can see a lot of aggression coming in here, increasing open interest. Certainly some potential to trap some longs locally there at the highs. It's also maybe a little more so on Bybit than Binance. It's the kind of thing you're looking for to fade for a local short setup on some weakness. Like if this all gets put underwater. Again, it's not so much activity here on Binance. With the idea just being come in, run these highs, and then reject, but still got to wait for some weakness. Increasing open interest, some aggression coming in here, 53 million, 14.4 million, nothing too crazy. But the volume's not very big here. But what you do have is, I mean, an 85 million volume candle, you have 53 million delta, increasing open interest. Just, again, gotta wait for a little bit of weakness. Because low time frame price is just kind of ramping up. Grinding up. But you're here, let me so you have price grinding up for an impulse. Looks quite bullish, but that's one of the reasons that you have tons of longs opening up on the breakout. And then the idea would just be you just trap everything and rotate back to the downside. I would say it looks pretty interesting on a rejection here. Yeah, so this is something that I'm probably pretty open to aggressively shorting here, personally. Just see if you get the quick rejection. If not, you might be cutting that position, but kind of trapped a significant amount of aggression up at the highs. You're starting to see price rejecting off of that. Some shorts filled up. A little bit of a bearish divergence here. It's probably not the most significant and you have the the new daily session too, so you kind of have a strong move up into the daily session, put in a local high, and you're basically just trying to catch people offside who are chasing continuation, which may come, but the idea of a short here is that it's more likely to get some kind of ranging trappy price action first, even in the bullish scenarios. I need to go back and review some of the Bybit order flow here. I know we had some bullish divergences forming on Bybit down in the lows where we didn't on Binance, and we weren't seeing a lot of aggression up in here, at least in here. Saw some here, 17, 24, 16, where we were seeing a lot more on Binance. But I'm actually curious what happened up here. 89. Just from the last several days, this is quite a lot of trapped. This is quite a lot of aggression out of Bybit. 31, 50, 114. That's the high, right? Yeah, so there's quite a few trap longs up on these rallies. And you can, yeah, like I said, you have the added benefit that yes, this is kind of a local, this is a local short setup, but it has some components of a high time frame setup here too, which is you had a high time frame level of resistance, that big PLC, the big GP. In the really bearish scenarios where you have major rejections from here, this is of course the type of thing that you're gonna see on lower time frames at major levels. You're gonna see the initial rejection, usually some kind of ranging, some kind of lower highs, and then the bigger rejection. Sometimes it can come quickly, and sometimes these kind of shorts end up just playing into really much bigger trades. You have a bearish divergence, initial rejection, lower high, and then just price rolls over. We could probably find some very similar examples, but it's not to say, I mean, it's also the kind of thing that price just is doing all the time, right? Sometimes you have this type of move where price just goes straight up, straight down, no ranging, no higher low. So here's for context for the bear scenarios. And sometimes you have these types of ideas, right, where you have the initial rejection, a little bit of ranging, come and take some local highs, put in a lower high. Not that we had a huge rejection off there, but it wasn't insignificant. I'd say, most of the time in even pretty aggressive rejections, pretty big rejections, you're doing something like this, right? Like this is sort of like the big payoff for looking to short into some of the local levels for the bearish ideas, and the same can be said for longs, right? It's just that kind of structural idea. put in the initial high of rejection, take a minor high, and then have strong continuation. Or, I mean, I'm just giving some examples of price action. I think we front ran this, but you know, you have the impulse, a little range, sweep the high, then roll over, and there's no more higher lows. There's no more structural retest. It's just a rejection, and price is essentially going straight down. So my preference on such a major level as this is, in my view, and it's major because it's significant if price is going to break out or reject, right? Both are meaningful, but it's my preference to play some of the more aggressive setups, and you know, because again, you're gonna feel kind of dumb not taking advantage of the big high time frame level, the impulse, the range, big trap longs here, and you could say like, oh, I think we'll get a minor rejection, but probably this, and then I'll look to short up here. But you kind of have that little local short idea, might not work, but if you come in and you play some of the more aggressive variations of bearish ideas at these high time frame levels, you can get into really good spots, and your risk is kind of very similar to when you're playing them in less relevant places on the chart. So that's my opinion. Whatever. I know there's going to be a lot of people here to say some sort of variation of "I told you so," something, shorting, something like that. But I'm not going to get wrecked. I know lots of people are bullish here and probably leaning towards, you know, that we're here, like this is this and this and this and this, and we're going to keep going higher, and we very well may, right? I mean, I'm in no way claiming, hey, this is the end, you know, price is going to go straight down from here. And if you're still long, you're an idiot. And if you're not short, you're an idiot. I mean, I'm sitting here on the 5-minute chart looking for some trap longs, a little bit of a reaction. You know, I'm doing my due diligence here, getting into shorts. I think this, you know, if we get something like this and we rotate back to this low, it's not unreasonable just to take some off there, and you're kind of left with this, just naturally left with this trade, for example. Like, it's not where you entered. You entered higher. You entered with kind of a tighter invalidation idea on a low time frame. But when you take profits and then you leave a stop up above the high, you're basically just in this for quote unquote free, right? It's like you've put yourself in a position where you're in this trade, and if your stop gets run, it's just going to round trip the profits you took off the scalp. That's kind of the idea, right? And I think then the next setup would be, I mean, if you're in here, you're maybe even scalping along down here, but you react here. The next setup would be shorting a sweep and rejection of the highs as a potential tighter setup, and just trying to play both of those. You might even end up eating a stop off this, obviously. I mean, anything's possible. All right, so we want to see, oh, am I on the wrong? No, I'm on the right chart. So we see a little bit more aggression on Binance, or sorry, on Bybit. That's kind of aggressive longs. I mean, ultimately, what we'd like to start seeing here from an order flow perspective is aggressive longs. You can see it, you know, the white and the blue side here. This is like a volume profile. It's a bid-ask profile. Aggressive buying, aggressive selling. And there's limit traders on the other side, right? So for every one of these market buys, 5.4 million, 5.9 million, 13 million, 16 million, increasing open interest, there's a limit seller taking the other side. And presumably a lot of those are short positions because you have the increase in open interest. So that's risk coming on. Short risk from limit traders, passive sellers, and long risk from aggressive breakout longers here. And the more you start to see aggressive buying, here you have a bit of aggressive selling off the initial reaction. This is going to be people just cutting as soon as there's no breakout, presumably. Nothing major, just a bit. Then you see more aggressive buying, and the more aggressive buying and more aggressive buying, and this level's not breaking. It at least gives you that, it gives you some confidence that there's limit sellers here intent on holding down price, and they're trading with some size, and they're absorbing a lot of aggression here. That's always good to see if you're short, and we're starting to see a little bit more of that. Something that, you know, I'll mention every once in a while is you don't know the degree of the intention here any more than anyone's willing to trade it, right? So there could be somebody here willing to absorb $1 billion delta in aggressive buying, but we'll never know if that's how much they're willing to absorb if those aggressive longs don't come in, right? That could be what they're willing to sell into this, but we're only going to know what it takes two to tango. So it doesn't matter if somebody wants to fill a $1 billion short here. We'll never know if we don't get $1 billion of buying. Just the more buying you see here with price failing to break out, so that would be, you know, CVD is just delta, so cumulative volume delta, this yellow line getting higher and higher and higher, and price just going sideways. You're seeing, oh, there's a pretty big seller here, and big sellers, just like big buyers, whatever. This is the theory of the order flow, that if you're trading with the passive seller here, you're trying to get some put together the puzzle piece of their intent and their ability in a way. And so here on Binance, you don't have a lot of info because this is very low volume and pretty delta neutral candles here in terms of volume. So here's a little bit more aggressive on Binance. You know, ultimately you'd like to see something a little more convincing on both. Okay. People asking for the Bitcoin dominance and USDT dominance charts. And do you ever use BTC CME futures order flow? Yeah, I occasionally look at it. There's a pretty popular trade between the CME and a lot of these ETF, like an institutional trade where you're long the spot ETFs and you're short CME futures because there's a premium there, and then if your futures contracts expire, you know, your short contracts expire, there's usually several percentage difference in price, and you cover both. And so I think some of that's been reflected in the order flow. Like you have some big bullish divergences on some of these spot ETFs, and then you have CME. Like you can see tons of aggressive covering. Like CME order flow right now, it takes a while to pull up, so I might not pull it up. Maybe I will later. But like CVD on CME is just like straight up here, and some of the ETF order flow of CVD is just down and to the right, whereas you see like the huge aggressive buying coming in at the highs here on some of that those CME. For anyone, I know people will inevitably ask how you get that data. I just have it all bought. I forget what it, like for each specific, like if you want the CME data or whatever, but I'm paying like almost $500 a month for that data. So you have to pay for it separately and then connect it to your something like ExoCharts feed, for example, and then you can access it. And then you can get something like this type of information on stocks or some of those ETFs if you want it, but it is quite expensive. And then, of course, you have to interpret the data. Okay, USDT dominance. I mean, I look at these charts as, I mean, generally speaking, I'm charting on all the same principles, no matter what I'm looking at. But I'll just say that I don't really have USDT dominance or Bitcoin dominance as part of my thesis here for my trades. I mean, I could loosely tie it into my thesis, Bitcoin dominance, for example. But one of the reasons that I'm I think people get a little too caught up on the dominance charts because they're usually using them to infer something about one of a million alts or something, right? Like, are there alts about to pump? What is there really to say about this? It's a range, double bottom range. I don't have a strong opinion here. BTC dominance. Running pretty heavy. And it's just kind of grinding straight up. I don't know. I mean, you know, again, it's sort of like, it's like, what do you really want to say about this chart? You have some potential where this is looking, but Bitcoin dominance is just doing this, right? Like, it's just grinding up. If a top comes in, there's probably going to be something structural here. Is it going to go like this? Probably not. It's pretty damn bullish. You're still suddenly not surprised to start seeing this. But what, you know, what, I'd have to look, like, what does the dominance chart even take into account? Like, does it just take everything into account? Obviously, alts have been getting hammered against Bitcoin for a while. But anyways, it's like, what are you trying to infer from it, right? What are you trying to figure out from the dominance chart when you ask me to look at it? Like, okay, so if Bitcoin, you know, if Bitcoin dominance is, I think people are looking, it's going straight up, right? So it's like, hey, is it gonna top now? Is it looking toppy? If Bitcoin dominance is gonna top, then alts are gonna go up, and we're gonna have alt season, or have relative strength against Bitcoin. Oh, I just realized that goes black. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of what are you looking to take away from the Bitcoin, something like the Bitcoin dominance chart, or the yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure. If I have to give my two favorite scenarios, Tom P says, if you're looking for answers for the Bitcoin Dom chart, watch Ben Cohen. I'm not looking for answers. I'm asking what people are asking. I mean, you can go type in Bitcoin dominance in my advanced Twitter search, and more or less, I had some of the cleanest Bitcoin dominance analysis. But it's like, you know, what are you trying to take away from it? Like, it's a low resolution question, I guess, for me, because okay, so Bitcoin dominance shows some weakness. That could mean Bitcoin goes down and alts go down less relatively, or vice versa. Like, it's like people asking alt season. Is alt season coming? Is my coin Hot Wheels 97 coin gonna go back to all-time highs? That's what they're asking, but they say, like, are we gonna have an alt season? Bitcoin dominance doesn't look particularly weak structurally. So, I mean, it could, if Bitcoin goes down and we see some of these types of scenarios, you know, 10, 15%, or the much deeper correction, you know, 25, 30%, you could just have Bitcoin dominance keep going up while alts go down another 40, 50%, right? Very, very surprised. Oh, I'm on the wrong. I was on the wrong pairing there. I was like, why is there 2 million volume in this candle on Binance? Like, this should be like this should be a pretty big candle. But I was on BTC USD tabbed over up at the highs here, or at the top of the screen. I'm like, there's like nothing happening here. But this makes a little more sense. Getting that big delta candle now on Binance, 57 million, 100 million volume, 57 million delta. Some shorts squeezed out here at the highs on Bitcoin, or on Bybit rather. So you're starting to see this this push towards the highs here, and if we don't start rejecting in here, probably coming for the highs. We didn't have a whole lot here on Binance, but we have a little more now. Let's see these big positions opening, increasing open interest. Lots of, again, long risk coming in. It's, you know, in terms of like thinking, well, we're gonna break out, or those highs are gonna come. They may not. I'm not really, I don't care either way really, but I'm not really entirely convinced. It's pretty similar to just in many cases in ranges. You have a high established, you see a price push up, lots of aggression come in, sell off, price push up, everybody's longing for the breakout, price comes down, longing for the breakout. I mean, we just saw this over and over and over again. Could we break out? Certainly, but you're not really surprised. You're not really surprised to see the aggression coming in here and people pushing for these highs. And that's how ranges form, and then you leave some highs behind and maybe you come take them later, and on a lower time frame, higher time frame, that's kind of what this all is. But we might just run them now, who knows. And we might just break out, which kind of makes this all easier on me, I suppose. You take a local short setup, and then if this just happens, well, I guess I don't have to worry about shorts here. I don't understand that question. Long on Pepe off of the system I trade. Does this information work on alts or only majors? What are you asking? For a second, it sounds like you're asking me that your system has a long setup, but you're asking me if your system works on alts. But I'm not. I'm assuming that's probably not what you're asking me. I don't really understand the question though. I mean, I could say that my system is a long as well. Just depends how you structure the trade, right? On Bitcoin. Like, yeah, you have to take certain things into context, right? Where, let's just say that you're trading towards all-time highs here. Well, this is I'll show you a really common setup here. I want to get rid of all this stuff just because it's not very messy. I mean, sorry, it's not very clean. But where you're just saying, all right, well, for the really, really bullish scenarios, you know, we have a range, we're breaking out, longing for price discovery, and stop under the range, price long on the breakout. And that's a long setup. So it's, yeah, again, I'm going on a bit of a tangent because I don't understand your question exactly, but you could have, depending on how you structure the trade, like would I take this long setup where I'm saying, okay, well, I'm gonna long here and put like my stop there, and that's like my, you know, probably not, but I mean that could be in someone's system too, right? They could just say, hey, price is above this level, I'm long until it's not, and it's like this, whatever. But anyways, the point is, you could structure a long setup or a short setup here, and you could structure a short setup that looks like this, and it's 1R, right? Invalidation is above all-time high, and your target is a higher low, and you're basically saying, I lose $1 if this happens, I make $1 if this happens, and I think it's weighted, you know, above 50-50 that we get this rather than this, and you know, that's the kind of edge you're trading. As a joke, by the way, I think I made that coin up, but you know, there's so many coins, who knows, it probably does exist. Yeah, probably going to be pretty open to the idea that this is going to carry to this high and potentially beyond. I mean, you don't know what happens here, right? Price just breaks out. Because this starts to go from, hey, kind of looks like a liquidity grab, to, oh, this is just literally grinding straight up. Can't even get some minor weakness. There's something a little interesting, which is some Binance, not so much the case on Bybit. But if we reject here with a lower high, we do have, I mean, it does, pushing up to the highs here and just running the highs and rejecting is also kind of something I'd want to short, but breaking out, don't want to be short anymore. I mean, it would be, it would be very surprising, I think, when I look at this. It'd be quite surprising just to see a really strong move out of here. Like, we break out and we just impulse straight up through the 100K level. But anything's possible. I'd be pretty surprised though if that happened, given that I mean, literally here, even here, like at these highs on the 5-minute chart, it's like we can't take a low. We haven't taken a single established low. So what we're just going to break out here, and the chart on every time frame on the 5-minute chart from the bottom to the highs is just, every level is just going to look like this on the 5-minute chart, and there's going to be hundreds of millions of longs opening up here, and they're just going to carry to 102K. Aggressive longs. I'd be so curious to see what's down here. Like, what happens when/if any established low, even this held, right? Like, this held as a higher low. We have not had, since this low, we're on the 1-hour chart here, you could even say this, every single one of these has held for a higher low and never been retested. This is the only one, again, you could say, where you kind of did, but it's pretty innocuous. This is a higher low, this is a higher low, this is a higher low, and like an impulse here. It's like, what happens if we can take a low? You got to assume there's some significant number of trailed positions. You just wonder what kind of cascading scenarios there are. At the very least, just curious to see what's built up under some of these established lows. But you're kind of running into this type of scenario. This is a little bit more where you kind of have this range. Oh, and I remember these front runs beautifully. I mean, clearly. This one in particular, as guess where my long trigger was there. This is back at 34K. I think it was a little bit more of a front run on another chart, but anyways, you have this this basically, I think even these were holding. You kind of took this, then you got the big impulse, and you saw a little bit more of this happening, and then you finally did come and take some lows. You had a big liquidation candle, and then ran some established lows, and this happens, and off to the races again. Some big bullish divergences here. This is, the more I'm looking at this, this is like exactly what we just came off of. Here I spent quite a bit of time under the lows. Strong breakout here. Anyways, eventually this is coming, in my eyes, that we're gonna, it's not necessarily about running the established lows, but we'll run some trailed liquidity here. And it's just a matter of where/when. Because even this, but anyways, who knows? That can come much later. But yeah, I'd be a little surprised if this comes. But if we start claiming this POC, breaking out of this, rejump the chart. Anyways, my favorite scenarios. I just remembered it. I don't think I answered that question. If I had to pick my 2 favorite scenarios, I want to just get rid of, I'm just deleting all of this. I mean, my favorite scenario probably is still this. Some variation of this. Probably more like this. Could be a zigzag. I had the idea of a flat in there, but upon consultation and further analysis, suppose it doesn't make sense to look for the expanded flat, but it's still a possibility maybe. This is probably playing more into the bullish scenarios. But I still like the idea of coming back and testing 2021's all-time high and this GP and taking out more of this, but that's getting less and less. This is probably a line. I mean, it's got you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere maybe for that idea, and we're probably approaching some of that. I think this all plays. But I mean, you're at a point somewhere in here where, and this is probably it. Like I think I almost have to be 50-50 neutral between the lows are in, and even though I like this idea, like this is taking longs with swing towards all-time high elements to it, right? Like there might be some TPs in here, but or TP, but you're holding some of that for all-time highs, and the same goes for shorts, right? Like if shorts from here print, then yes, you might like this idea, or I might like this idea, but TPs are coming in, longs are coming in, the shorts being left as a hedge. And so even if I like one more than the other, I'm probably trading them both with equal weighting. And I think this can play too, but we'll see. I mean, at some point, if we impulse here, like just remove the levels, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be faced with the decision on the really bullish scenarios. Like we're in a range. I mean, the levels that matter here are in a range. The levels that matter here are in the uptrend. We're holding a strong uptrend. At some point, you're going to have the opportunity to just take a long off something like that, and it either works or it doesn't for a continuation. And that's going to be, that could be here, that could be here, but, or that could be here, right? It's all gonna basically be the same thing, and if we don't hold a strong trend, then you're just gonna be in a range, and then you're gonna have the opportunity to trade all levels within all range ideas. And so right now we're trending in a range. We're trending in a range. It's similar to this. And of course, not always, but you presume in a lot of scenarios you're going to have some opportunities just to take some longs off of this. And probably the trap that a lot of people find themselves in. No, it's not a trap. Like I'm not even gonna say taking a long here. Like if you know, use risk management, structure it cleanly. You're targeting all-time highs, even your invalidations under these lows, something like this. It's not that unreasonable, but you don't really want to make a decision where you're always thinking that something extraordinary is about to happen, right? Like I don't think, you know, you don't want to just start always thinking that I think we're just going to go straight up to 200K this week. I mean, that's possible, but it's not likely, right? Like, and I'm not, if you start thinking like, I don't even think there's going to be, if you're waiting to take a long, there's not going to be any more structure. There's not going to be any more retracements. You're not going to have any nice, clean, tight invalidation setups. That is literally never true. It doesn't mean that every setup is going to be that if you're not long here, that you're going to get another chance to long here, but you're going to get other chances to get long with clean invalidation, right? Like there's going to be structure. We'll take a look at this. I mean, prices structurally just showing no weakness on the lower time frames. Again, you have to start thinking that those range highs are coming if we don't start going the other way. Yeah, someone saying the previous mini range at these prices was also choppy. Yeah, we obviously spent last time we were around this kind of 100K to 93, 92K region. We spent like 3 weeks ranging here. You know, you think about some of the classic front runs that we had highs. If you look back at this, you know, where we ranged here for, I mean, you could call it 250 days, depending on how you look at it. But like, boy, right here, you have to think that the highs are coming. Like, you basically have lower high, lower high, lower high. Price comes and runs all of the lows, pushes up right under a fourth lower high, and then we just nuke down into the lows again. It's pretty, I mean, yeah. So anyways, am I so convinced that all-time highs have to be coming here before a new low? Not really. I think it looks convincing, but I don't think that means it is convincing. But you got to be pretty. I mean, you got to be pretty careful. I think you got to be careful both ways. Like, there's two trains of thought here, which is people will be like, oh, you know, trying to short this is so reckless. But of course, the same should be said for longs, right? Like, do you think the types of decisions that somebody's gonna potentially be making here, longing this versus shorting it, and just saying like, well, I'll probably at least get out, you know, at here or whatever. I'll wait for the retest of the highs. I mean, it's just as dangerous and reckless, depending on how you're structuring your trades, to be longing, right? There's no, I'm not trying to put any words in anyone's mouth, but I mean, I've had comments like that, like it's so dangerous or reckless to be shorting, and it ends up being the Pico top. But it's like the recklessness isn't from longing or shorting. It's just how you position. Like, is this reckless to structure a trade like this? No. I mean, it's fine. You can. I'm sure there's a lot of people taking trades like this. The question is, do you lose everything here, or half your portfolio, or 30% of it because you're super over leveraged, or is it just sized reasonably and this is a 1% stop loss, right, on a 5% move? The danger comes from how you're structuring your trade, not necessarily the trade you're taking in this scenario. Sam says, are you in a short now? I am, but you know, it's tentative. Like, I give a few examples of shorts over the last week where I ended up taking the short and then closing it at entry, because like a lot of the times if you're trading an SR level, and a lot of times my trades are around SR levels, or it's a component of them. It's not every trade. Some trades obviously are just trends, and they have nothing to do with an SR flip. But a lot of times, if you're trading an SR level, say you're shorting this, you're going to have the option of getting out of that trade here. And I gave like 3 or 4 examples of that, I think, this week, of taking trades around SR levels and then just closing them when the invalidation was higher, but closing them when price breaks out and retests them and doesn't just break them down, right? It's not a guarantee, but the point is, the context of this for a short looks a lot better than the context of this for a short, right? And even if you close at entry, a lot of the times, I mean, again, it depends on the time frame you're looking at, and like just a better look, right? So what can happen is if you're, I mean, this is a good example, although I didn't, I just said I was leaving the charts and I didn't give anyone any updates, although it was literally the exact same thing I did the days before. But you basically have scenarios like this where you could look to trade an SR flip. I think if you even go to the Bitcoin public updates channel, it's the exact same idea I took. Although that short would have actually held and ran to target without closing it back at entry, because we did run up higher, but then we ultimately came down and swept the target into that trend line. The point being this: you have a short here, but if price breaks up out of the structure and it's not doing this, oftentimes you can let the short play, and if your invalidation's up here. But if this happens and you just SR flip the level and it's like this doesn't happen, then you've entered the short aggressively on the level, and then you say, well, the context of sweep, reject is very different than impulse back through the level and retest it. And so anyways, I'm in one of those shorts here, and I would say that, if this, am I on the right screen? Oh yeah. If this was doing this, I would consider just getting out around entry instead of this. But for now, we're breaking it down. But you usually have some time around SR levels. Like, say you're in this trade, for example. I'm just giving a random example. Let's just say you're in this trade targeting these highs. You might not want to, so you enter here, you might not want to just close your trade because this happened, but you might want to watch what's happening here. And if price just comes back into the level, the range, then you just stay long. But here, for example, you might be eating a stop. Oh, this wick didn't really sweep. Whatever. We can play the same. It's not really the same idea because we never took the high in the first place before just breaking up out of it. But anyways, this probably all matters for the idea here, and you're kind of at a point because I'm essentially in a low time frame idea at a high time frame level where you want to see some of this structure giving way. You have a decent amount of trap longs up here now. Something a little bearish is happening too in order flow. Again, it's not the most bearish thing, but it's helpful. It didn't lead to anything significant here when it happened, but you basically have some aggressive longs opening here and getting absorbed, and you're developing some you could say fairly significant trap long positions up here on a breakdown. Like you have, just let's focus on Bybit first. Am I on the right screen? Yeah. So as price pushes up to the highs, we see some aggression starting to come in down here. You can just see on the bid-ask profile. I know it's probably hard to see 7.6 million, 11 million. The delta in the candles down here, the volume's right here. It's just shown through the this yellow line. But anyways, up at the highs, aggressive longs, aggressive longs, aggressive longs, aggressive longs, aggressive longs, aggressive longs. And so if we kind of collapse this into a single candle, which you could just do by changing the time frame, or you can pull some of that data and change this to a bid-ask profile. It's probably a little more visually friendly here. We start to see that there's a decent amount of longs here. There's some aggressive selling in here as well, but we can see down here we essentially have a delta of cumulative delta of about 70 million up at the highs. Let's say from here to here, and again, as price starts rejecting here, instead of seeing aggressive selling on these little pullbacks getting absorbed, we're seeing aggressive buying in the pullbacks getting absorbed, and ideally that just keeps shaping up and more aggressive buying comes in and price can roll over. But anyways, we'll see. I mean, certainly a little bit of weakness here into some aggressive buying, and we have a little bit more coming in on Binance too, with some bigger positions opening. But yeah, I would say that there's a different, it makes sense because there actually is different aggression in longs coming in here as well than on Binance, or on Bybit rather. But here on Binance, we see the selling aggression on this candle, which you'd more expect to see on pullbacks like this at the highs. So we aren't seeing the buying aggression coming in here getting absorbed. We're just seeing the selling aggression, which is a little more ambiguous for the bearish ideas, and potentially showing a buyer here, right? But anyways, we'll see how it plays out. I'd say this leans a little more bearish on Bybit. I used to not even look at Binance. I think it's probably useful. Although it was markedly more bearish looking in this range at certain key points where Bybit was particularly bullish. So, I mean, this all looks much more bullish on Bybit. Even this, much more bullish. Big, just lots of aggression, lots of relative selling at the lows, aggressive selling into this uptrend, getting absorbed. Where here you had really aggressive buying into the uptrend. The big question is how relevant, I mean, for me, how, I think the Binance order flow seems important. The big question is just how clean it is, but I'm not really seeing anything that's too off-putting, I guess. It doesn't always agree with other exchanges, though. It's always nice to have both sides agreeing. You heard someone put up a scenario where the current pump gives us a new all-time high around 114K, but reverses back to 72 in terms. I heard somebody say 115K and 73K. What do you think about that? Someone said, I heard someone put up a scenario where the current pump gives us a new all-time high around like 114K, but reverse back to down to bear market 72K, turns into a dead cat bounce. What's your thoughts on that? And I just made a joke that I heard somebody say 115K, 73K. But basically, yeah, you're asking what are my thoughts about taking the all-time high and then taking the low and basically forming a bigger range here. Yeah, it's a range until it's not. I mean, let's get rid of all the brush marks here. 114K puts us right into a deviation of all-time highs. and 72K puts us right into a deviation of this low. So that is a range, and I think that's probably worth considering if we take this high. I mean, you're basically, but I would just say this, like the information, I think it'd be really hard. I think it'd be really hard to play that scenario completely, like no TPs, no other longs, like to play that as a primary scenario. Like if price pushes up here, I mean, and the relevance of the idea is that, are you going to take a short here? If we deviate this high, are you going to take a short? I mean, I'm probably taking that short. Almost certainly, let's say. Am I on the right screen? Fuck. China news just came in. Thoughts? I don't know the news. I mean, guys, I'm not looking at the news right now, so. But anyways, the point is, yes, this would be a range. So, 114K here, take the low. 72K would be taking this low, deviate. I mean, 72K is like literally right under the low. What do I think about that? I think it's interesting, just in terms of it being a range. But I also think that if you're shorting this, I mean, you're taking profits in the middle of the range. It depends what the internal structure is here. And you're probably still looking for longs in the bullish scenarios anyways that just aren't going to play if it's a range. And so I'd say this, the relevance of that broader idea to me is just that, I mean, are you going to long? Are you going to short this? And are you going to long this? Probably. But if we impulse into the highs here, is the only long I'm going to take a deviation of this low down to 72K? Probably not. So it's more just about levels that you'd be interested in trading. Like, I think it's going to be pretty hard if price is down here and does this. I mean, that's the non-log GP is right at 72K. And if price pushes a little higher, like 14K, you could call this the kind of predictive fib setup, where you front run this fib here, and if price pushes up to 114K, it brings our 618 to this pivot. Frankly, I love this kind of thing, but we'll see. I can also play in these kind of scenarios. But and then you have this, and ooh, look at that. It's a perfect GP tap right into this low. And yeah, probably going to be longing a reclaim of that. You have a nice clean tight invalidation there. And then, I'll be in this long, and people say, why are you long? I thought you were waiting for 67K. And then this will happen. They'll say, you idiot. I'll long this. I think it would be hard not to long that. Especially if I would love to see whatever comes out of here, whether it's this or this. If we get these lows, I would love to just see it like roll over, like in V shape recovery, like some weakness, and then the last half of the move comes in a daily candle. And if you're asleep, you're screwed. Like this type of guy. Some of this action. Bazillions and gajillions of dollars liquidated. This kind of ran that type of move on the last leg of it. Yeah, so like this is really weak, and it's just like one day everybody's liquidated, the next day we're back going towards all-time highs, and that would play into the zigzag correction idea from here. So the idea of a zigzag, maybe I'll talk a little bit about that, or some of the corrective ideas here. I guess I haven't really done that on live stream. Do I even have? I probably inverse Titanic. Let me go to no, it's definitely after all these harmonics. Bit bullish harmonic, bearish harmonic. Where is there's some pretty aggressive selling coming in here now. I'll find the idea here. I'll go to order flow while I look though. 34 million. So some of these aggressive top longers starting to close aggressively on some weakness. Maybe I just have it on a different pairing. Let me look. That's our story. Yeah. All right. That's what it was. So we have this I kind of like these flat ideas, but apparently they are not as good as I thought. So let's get rid of the flat components of this. I'll talk a little bit about those, what the idea was that I thought looked kind of nice here, which is like if you get a WXY setup and this was like something like an expanded flat, then you put in the higher low, you take all these highs, you know, to the 123.7 region, take the 786 region, take this 100K high, and then you kind of, it looks kind of pretty trappy, this last little impulse here towards all-time highs, a front run, and then you come down and you run into this deep level. Then you have the the 1.237 extension here, gives you the 1618 down, blah 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 blah. I liked some ideas there, but and then there's regular flat ideas too, but those start looking different. But anyways, the zigzag idea here, so you call this a WXY or a double zigzag. So you have going to be a 5-wave correction. And you do have your 1618 aligned here. If we reject here, actually I think technically just pull it from this low right at 67K. This is pulled a little incorrectly, got moved a little bit, and Look at that. You got your 1618 aligned perfectly with your 618 of this move into this low, into the previous all-time high. So I think it's still kind of interesting. But this is like kind of looking for a lot of weakness here. These scenarios. Ping right off 67K. Give me some options, Daniel. Daniel says, what kind of short are you in right now? What are my options? Are we talking like scalp, swing, hybrid? Or are we talking, are my options like a good short, a bad short, an underwater short? Yeah, I'm short from here, 75K. I think this is just a fake out. I'm just kidding. I'm short locally here. It's kind of it's a hybrid type idea where we're running into a major level of interest. Probably gonna give this a little bit of room towards the highs. So the major level of interest, obviously, is something I've talked about. And the local idea was kind of coming up and putting in a lower high, taking these highs, trapping some logs. It's kind of working, kind of not working very quickly, but I would say that the overall idea is still kind of in my favor for now. Alternative, willing to short some of the lower high ideas, trapping some longs with the maybe idea of pulling some of the risk into these lows and leaving the rest as a potential swing setup. Then I just don't have to really work too much harder to get exposure to this if I don't see anything worth getting exposed to. The other alternative, taking the high. But it's kind of a local idea. Still cautious here. I mean, it's a major level, but like when I say cautious, I don't probably feel comfortable just to say, listen, I'm going to open a short here. I'm going to go, go chill until Monday, and I'm sure price will be lower rather than higher, and wake up to this, right? Because this is a major level, but this isn't. Some bearish things can happen here, but there's nothing particularly bearish about this at this point. I mean, that's just a reality. But that can all change kind of quickly. So I'm poking and prodding. So we had some aggressive selling at the low of this candle, in this whole candle. It's almost half the volume is represented in the delta It's almost all selling. And now we see probably some of those positions coming back in after getting spooked out. Probably some of these closing aggressively here were the ones opening aggressively here. And maybe something similar happening here on Bybit. We have some choppy highs coming in here. With not seeing, I mean, you just have to think at some point. I think we actually are perfectly rejecting off the 786. Let's just call this like the range kind of regions. These, I mean, a lower high at 786 or 886. It's like 80 to 85% of the distance to the highs of the range. It's pretty common, but I mean, at some point you have to start thinking that if if you're trading a range and this isn't rejecting and this, I mean, at some point you're thinking the range highs are coming, but is being short really invalidated here is probably the next idea you're looking to short here, and then probably giving up on shorts if price is just breaking out. So that's how I look at it. You can do it a lot of ways. You can scale in, like you can say, let's just use this range here as an example. I had some long and short ideas in this range, all of which would have played fine because no highs were taken. But the idea being, I mean, so one way to think of it is you're just kind of scaling in, right? Like your first position's coming in for lower highs, targeting higher lows. This being one of the long positions, this being another long idea, but I wasn't awake for it. And your next ideas are taking the lows. And so you're kind of scaling in and out of your positions with sweeping the highs, lower highs, higher lows, sweeping the lows, and you're just trading the range that way until it's not a range anymore. And so that's kind of the idea here. Probably deferring to the most likely scenario, being that this ranges. Before it breaks down or breaks out. The be kind of interesting just to do something like this where we roll over, we rearrange all through into the weekend, and then we just start kind of rolling over the trend line and something like that. But who knows? User 1234 says you're short of yesterday's live stream. I think that was 2 days ago, wasn't it? You're short of yesterday's live stream played out. Did you reopen that position? We'll never know. Roman says, that's my bet, rolling over at Sunday night on low volume before the market opens. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that in the last couple months that we've had some significant, pivots come in on Sundays and price action. So yeah, maybe it all plays out, take the high, lower high, whatever, rolls over on a Sunday. Of course, the moment I get short, all I want is price to go straight down. But you got to think that this is playing some version of this, whether it's perfectly clean or not. It's going to be playing in a lot of scenarios. What do you think? Oh, we'll take a look at order flow here. What do you think about shorting ETH? What is a good retest level? I hold no ETH, so I could care less what it does, but would like to short it. That's all me reading a comment. What do I think about shorting ETH? Well, probably very similar to my thoughts about shorting Bitcoin. The structure's not too different. It's also playing around at a major GP region. I mean, you could claim that all of the structural elements, except for the POC are of a major range, which actually there might be a POC of this. There is a POC here as well. So, I mean, structurally, it's not so different of a short, right? You've taken some highs. This is the 1 hour chart. Take some highs up towards the PLC, the GEP, you're ranging, you're taking the range highs. The difference is that ETH has already done this, so it's already triggered this. It's already triggered this short that Bitcoin has yet to trigger, right? The failed breakout of the previous high, and that is not in play yet on Bitcoin. Like the variation of that on Bitcoin would be this, but you could just say that, you know, if you're taking the same setup on ETH, you're already in this trade and targeting into the range lows for the range variation. And then as far as lower highs, I mean higher lows, I think the ideas are almost identical on ETH as they are on Bitcoin structurally, right? Basically have a low. Here we took the low. I've talked about ETH a lot already. I mean, I've talked about this idea a lot already, but I'll just do it again really quickly. One idea being a higher low. Take these, and you have that set up. The other idea being taking the low. And I'll just be honest, like I'm with you a little bit where I don't really care that much about ETH. Like I know there's a lot of people probably fixated on ETH, but I'd be kind of interested if we could actually come and take this low on ETH. I think that still looks kind of reasonable to me. I know I'm a dirty bear, but we front ran that low, and hey, I don't mind those kind of scenarios where we actually take that low. I don't mind maybe trying to long that. It looks more in the context of this downtrend. I've said this about alts a lot. Bitcoin looks a lot different than alts. Bitcoin looks a lot more bullish in the context of this move and this range. But hey, it's kind of like weird if we're seeing this here on ETH, probably not impossible, just a little weird. Like if it's a major low forming, you're probably expecting something here to look like a low, like not just this. Although it may feel like it sometimes, it's not really how lows form. Like lows form more like this. Like, yeah, you can have nice moves and reactions off lows, but you know, like, are we they usually don't do this, like build some kind of base here even here, build some kind of base. Build some kind of base. Consolidate a little bit. That's my opinion. Yeah, and obviously I'm not dumb, so I know that if my short ideas on Bitcoin work, you could probably short most anything and it's going to work. And if everything sort of has a technical bend to it, then this is probably looks okay for a short setup on ETH. I mean, for the same reasons, this is totally different structure on Doge, but it's the type of place where you would start to see maybe the lower high. So yeah, probably some case to be made that alts are going to be weaker than Bitcoin. A lot of alts, usually they are. If Bitcoin goes down 15, 20%, 30%, alts probably go down more. The viewer change on the little app or whatever it's called, it never changes. How many viewers are in here? I'm just curious. Okay, thank you. That's my bit rolling over on a Sunday. Do the Bitcoin chart and NASDAQ chart look exactly look like the dump in 2008 and 2000? Do they exactly look the same? No. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's probably just the similarity of, like, maybe what you're referring to is that we are doing this. Put in a high, big rejection, lower high. So if this is kind of what you're referring to in that way, probably some similarity is right. This is there's some components here. Like if we go to the daily chart, trends here not very similar, but I mean there's some components we take. It's pretty different. I would say it's pretty different. Yeah, I mean, even on the daily chart, it's just not really the same. The only things that are quote unquote the same is just we put in a high, pretty strong rejection, a little bit of a range here, but internal structure is not really the same here. Put in a low, took the low, which we didn't actually even do here. This actually looks really similar to summer 2021 Bitcoin price action. Like this vibe is almost identical. I'll just show it really quick for the reference. I'll even pull the fractal over just for the fun of it. All this is the same. Except one came in as a lower high. But you basically have, this is the NASDAQ. See this? Like, you can barely even see the difference here. It's like almost, it's not structurally almost identical. Just how price has this low, has this big impulse. This rejection is almost identical. Like it almost looks like you copied the same chart. I've got a good eye for spotting, remembering some of this price action, because this is like literally almost identical, except for that this doesn't play into lower high. But you have this like grindy, all of this. Basically, all of this is like a perfect duplicate. What does this have in common with our current price action? Just if we reject here, it'd be a 618 rejection, I think. Like you have a high, a big rejection, an impulse, and another strong rejection. And it, you know, you can go back to a lot of big bearish moves. It's a pretty common theme. I'm not sure if the fractals or nonsense comment is being facetious or ironic or serious, but I think not. Yeah. It's definitely worth, when the market goes, sometimes it sure goes, hey? Thing looks really good until it doesn't. I'm kind of interested to just sort of like do this on the NASDAQ really quick. Like, looking good, a little range, take the highs, nuke. %20 pullback. This is a pretty, look at this. $297. 83% pullback. $55. Now just grinding straight up forever. You wonder, right? Can we ever go back to pre-COVID levels? Does it even make sense? Like does 2016 play ever? Do we ever see retests of this region? A lot of people, I think, would say no. It is just kind of funny. Like, you think about where the market was even a couple years ago. We had all this in play, and then we just saw such strength out of here. But people are like in a panic over this. Boy, I mean, you just have to think that they have no idea what is possible and likely at some point. Like, people really listen, I think we're at kind of a critical point here for continuation, but by God, this is not probably what's going to happen for the indefinite future, next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. We're just going to keep this at thousands of percent. Like, we're going to go sideways, and we're going to have like these lows probably are coming 55% away. Eventually, probably, who knows, whatever. Just funny that it's like crazier in a lot of people's minds to think that can come than to think that price is just gonna do this forever without that. I don't know. Obviously, calling, even in the context of COVID type crashes, like you get a COVID and you get like this. Even in that context, you basically don't get a bearish move. Really, anything bearish for the last 15 years. So you can understand it, I guess. Like why we basically have a economic crisis in 2007, 2008, 2009. We start recovering 2010, and we have COVID, and we have, I guess, the sort of like cooling off period, so to speak, 40%. We just had a 20% pullback. Why not just think this will happen forever? I think people went from thinking that this was insane, that this period of the chart was insane, to like, okay, and then like, there was a lot of, you could say, quote unquote, smart people shorting in here, and just like, okay, well, this is something you would have never suspected was going to happen, but now that it's happened, it's like, this is the new normal. Now it's stupid to think that this isn't going to keep happening. Before, this was never going to happen. Now it's like, of course it's just going to keep happening. It's just kind of funny how the sentiments kind of shift. Whatever. Um, I would recommend following X-Force Global for some great XRP, some great and timely XRP analysis. I'm keeping it kind of simple. I was sort of interested in longing this trend, but I didn't, and now I'm not. But I like this. I mean, it's either like this or this. I mean, it's, for me, it's like every chart is one of two things, or it's either a higher low, a lower low, and it works on a lot of charts, or a lot of strength and a pullback. It's like every chart is that, basically. Bitcoin is that. Bitcoin is either this, this, or this, and ETH is either this, this, or probably this. Same with Doge. So anyways, anything beyond that, like, I'm not really thinking about anything beyond that. Now, when new price action develops, I'm gonna kind of get in there and think about what's happening internally there. But I do start to. I mean, I can't help but feel I'm gonna get a little bit like something like this here. It's kind of hard to imagine, unless something just really bearish happens, that we are going to just fall up back into this range and nuke. Whatever, it can happen. I don't really have too much reason to think one way or the other than this doesn't look so bearish, but that's kind of good because people are going to long it aggressively, get trapped up there, do something stupid maybe. I also like that S&P is here, but this can all break out as well. So, whatever. I might not stay alive for much longer. Comments here. X-Force is claiming ETH to 32K, by the way. That's, or scenario B, it's dead and heading to $100. Yeah, I actually haven't seen those ETH counts yet. But I mean, there's probably, for a trader, again, I haven't seen the counts. I'm sure there's nice context there, but there's probably, for the way I would approach the chart, there's probably some room in between $100 and $32,000 to play around. But it kind of makes sense so that some of those really bullish scenarios on ETH would have big targets, because I mean, frankly, even for me, like having the pullback scenarios on Bitcoin, whether we have a higher low, the lows in, or even my quote unquote preferred idea of taking that 70K level, they're all really bullish ideas for Elliott Wave as far as Elliott Wave goes. like sub 300K, 400K, potentially much higher with some ranging. So yeah, you know, you have to assume that if Bitcoin goes to 300 or 400K, then you can probably get to a 30K ETH. Especially if you start seeing some strength out of ETH. Yeah, I mean, he's really amazing at what he does. There's no doubt about that. Can you share my views on XRP? What was I gonna do here? JFerg says, just no way it goes below 20K ever again, LOL. First I thought you were talking about Bitcoin, but you're probably joking about the NASDAQ. Okay, well, what should we say here? A little bit of, I mean, a little bit of ambiguity in order flow with some chop here. We're seeing a little nonsense like this. Aggressive longs opening, you know, 22 million delta, then instantly closing negative 20 million delta. A little bit of chop here. Is there much to say? Not really. We're probably trying to head towards the highest to test them. I mean, part of me could stay live here. Although if I stay live, nothing's going to happen. That is the rule. And if I get off the live stream, then we are either going to go big impulse to the upside or downside. You could, what am I doing here? You could make the case. I mean, you could start to make the case for this short setup pretty quick here on the local time frames, that you just let it go, because, and it's not that you aren't going to potentially be getting short again, but just looking for something a little cleaner that's actually just playing the way you would want it to play. Because if price is like if price is going to sweep a level and reject, and you're entering here, the best case scenario, of course, is price grinds up into the level, sweeps it, you'd enter the short, and then price just is instantly rewarding you for taking that short. But if this starts happening, and then you kind of are like, okay, well, this, it's like, at some point, even if price is just at your entry idea, are you better off to just say, I might just cut this and either wait for this or wait for something else that looks kind of more bearish than ambiguous or bullish? And you know, you basically have a case here where if you're shorting around these highs, give it a little bit of room, deviate. You want to flip this, you have a little local high here, but if this isn't just rejecting like it was for a moment and rolling over, and instead is reclaiming, it's not just about guessing. I kind of like thinking about trades this way because it's it's just doing something reasonable, right? It's like, okay, if we'll deviate above this, we'll accept back below it. I like that short. But if it becomes more ambiguous, it's not like, oh, I want to be a part of, well, but what if this happens? Or what if this happens? It's just sort of like, this whole idea just doesn't look as clean. And then same thing goes taking these highs, right? Start taking these highs, can look kind of nice, trap a bunch of longs, and you're either kind of instantly rewarded, or this is happening, and this, and it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe I'm just looking for something a little cleaner. I do have an opinion, which is your trades, if you're trading around like highs and lows, like these highs, like I'm just giving some examples here, but if you're trading around highs and lows, shorting highs, shorting lows, sweeps, you should start getting rewarded for that fairly quickly. Like you can give your trade a little bit of time, let some this, but yeah. Price should start moving away from your entry relatively quickly, and obviously, you know, you can again size to give it some room. I'm not really going for a sweep here, and let a little bit of price action shake out. But if it's just not happening, you can just cut it. I think this is like the kind of thing you want to see, like fitting an aggressive move. I want to look at some examples just to say, like, yeah, giving it a little bit of time. And the example here is just, I'm just picking a random pivot, but say you're shorting or you're longing around this. I mean, you got rewarded pretty quickly on this aggression. You're probably actually just taking the break even stop at some point. Maybe you've taken TP1 off that, but yeah, you know, in here you can give it a little bit of room. At some point you want price to be going in your favor. The more ambiguous it's getting, and you know, if price breaks up out of the highs, like let's just say that this is the short you're in. I'm just again kind of giving a random example, but more of a principle. That this, am I on the right screen? Yeah, I am. This is the short you're in. It's kind of working. You shorted this lower high. You're targeting these lows, let's say, and it's not really working. Let's just say you have a little bit of time. Your stop is above this high. You just cut it. You never take that high. This starts happening. Now you're flipping this level. It's not like you never are going to have a chance. This was actually on the weekend, right? This is that big Sunday rollover that we had. Well, in this case, this could have been really clean just to aggressively trade into, with price just like these low time frame trends rolling over. But that was on the weekend. We actually had one up here as well. But I'm way back at the beginning of the month. This is a month ago. But anyways. There's going to be opportunities to get short again. That's the point. It's just like, okay, I'm seeing something bearish again. I'm going to try again, right? That's my point. It's like you haven't said, oh, I'm cutting my short. Oh, we front ran my other short idea. Oh no, now I can't get in another short. I guess whatever. There's more bearish things will happen. More structure will form, and you just can set up a new trade based on what is happening. But anyways, that's kind of my vibe here with this short. Is it's not quite doing what, if you're trading on the low time frames, what you're wanting it to do. It's right on that edge of like needing to reject versus just not caring about anything about this or some new bearish structure. But anyways, it doesn't really matter either way. I think invalidation for shorts here are something like some reasonable deviation above these highs. That's kind of a clean short trigger. I'm talking about locally into this level. Higher time frame weakness is flipping this previous range high into resistance, but you also need to start taking out this uptrend, which is holding now for 3 touches. And you know, obviously a lot of people aren't going to be looking at all this stuff and basing trades around it. So you know, the best way to trade most ideas is wait for some reasonable signs of weakness, some reasonable levels, reasonable structure, give your trade some room to breathe. So maybe that's an acceptance back into the range below, nice wide stop, reasonable sizing, not really caring about thinking about anything on the lower time frames, and your trade either works or it doesn't. Probably the best way to approach things for the average person. And if you want to try to short into the level or trade into the level, which we're at the level now rather than waiting for weakness, it's a double-edged sword for sure. But you get the benefit of basically just saying, hey, I'm short. Instead of being short here, you know, let's say this is your stop loss is at 99,100 and you're shorting here. It can feel nice to be like, I'm just short at the level, I'm short here, and I kind of have the same setup, and I'm anticipating weakness, whatever. People will do that, put limit orders at like something like the POC here, and now you have a stop at 100,000, 100.5K, and you're actually surviving a sweep of this high as well as in some cases. So there's benefits to both. Kind of lump the trades into two there with a similar risk profile, let's say. Yeah, I kind of want to get off the live stream because as soon as I do, price will probably move, which is always good. Yeah, Purple Punch says you got to have to start threatening to leave so price will do something. Threatening doesn't work, but I swear, like I've gotten onto live streams like for all-time high breakouts, multiple times where we are what was this, like 0.3%, 0.3%, 0.4% from all-time highs. And then we just trade sideways for 6 hours. And many times, I mean, it's sort of the nature of, I guess, significant levels, right? But anyways, and then you end the live stream and something happens. So that completely you know, I did think of something kind of funny. I think starting a live stream like 0.3% above all-time highs, let's say, like some major level like that, because you want to be live for maybe and eventually I did get this live stream on the breakout, you know, maybe shorting that all-time high or whatever it is. The same impulse to say like, okay, surely, I mean, it's probably coming now, probably safe to start the live stream, preempt the move a little bit because it could all unravel quickly, is the same kind of mental impulse that's going to have somebody longing there, right? Where it's like, okay, surely, if I've ever been safe to long, if I've ever been safe to put on like a high leverage, risk it all, long position, where, you know, we're not going to dump where the fuck am I here? Sorry. Where we're not going to dump before breaking out to all-time highs. It's got to be something like these, right? Where like this is like right before all-time highs and people are just getting nuked. This was our 2021 all-time high. sorry, let's get back to the, yeah, and so that same impulse, it's like people put on a ton of high leverage positions because, hey, we are about to break out of our 2021 all-time highs. Look at prices just going straight up. There's no way I'm getting liquidated on this position. We are 0.5% away, 0.4% away, and then price just goes straight down, right? Liquidates everybody, then takes the high, and then liquidates everybody again. I did catch the, so anyway, it's the same impulse where I'd say, hey, I want to short this all-time high. I'm going to get a live stream going here because it'll be interesting to do that live. Is why people are long in there. But I did end up getting live here. But you'll see that type of thing play out, I guess, at these major levels. All right. What are we doing here? Reset. What do you think? Rejecting again? All right, well, maybe it plays. We're right on that edge, I think, of just needing to see some weakness out of here for this idea. But if you're not trading low time frames, you don't care about all this stuff. You're putting on much wider trades. I am not going to answer that question. I still think I talked about a lot of stuff throughout the live stream, so probably a lot of those questions are answered earlier. All right, guys, I'm going to end the live stream here. If something kind of crazy happens, I might be tempted to get live again. Later, maybe towards New York. Then we're coming into the weekend. Who knows? Let's see what happens. Lots of scenarios where we just end up trading sideways here for a while. Give us a BART. That'd be nice. If we could just get a BART here and then just all in, short that. Just kidding. But just a nice tight validation. Short set up right at the highs. Add. Right into the weekly close. Be kind of nice. Kind of nice. All right. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to end the live stream. Not much more to talk about here, I don't think.